Hello friends, welcome to the channel Fricadas Varias. Today we're gonna talk about the Back to the Future trilogy. We're gonna talk about the timeline, jumps in time, everything about the motion picture. We're gonna analyze mostly the jumps in the time. There are two ways we can understand jumps in time in movies. There's one method considering anything you do in the past doesn't alter the things to come. I mean, it's the way they do in 12 Monkeys. Everything is determined. You can't change the future. It doesn't matter what you do. But Back in the Future movies, they use a different view of jumps in time. You can change the future by making things in the past, and so you create a new timeline. Here's the timeline in blue. The first movie begins in 1985 after the terrorist shot Doc. Marty McFly gets into the time machine, the DeLorean. He jumps in time from 1985 to 1955. That's the first jump in time. That's why I put a 1 in a yellow square and a little picture of Michael J. Fox to know is he the one who's making the jump. He arrives from point 1 in a red square to point 2 in 1955. But when he arrives point 2, he creates a new timeline because he begins to do things that alter the future. So there's a new timeline. In the timeline number 2, her mother falls in love with him. At the end, she falls in love with his future husband, what is what intended to be. So now the work is done. Marty McFly wants to come back to his own time. So in point number 3, he gets into the DeLorean again, and with the help of the lightning, he jumps to the point 4 in the timeline number 2. Is the jump number 2. He arrives to Twin Pines Mall. There is a new name for this mall because previously in the timeline number 1, the word twin didn't appear. There was just one pine, but things have changed after all the things he did in number 3. The next jump in time, we don't see it in the movie, but it's obvious it exists because the things that we'll see later. Number 5, Doc jumps to the future to the number 6 to the year 2015. That's the third jump in time. That year, he discovers the things that are happening to the song of Marty, and he decides to come back in point number 7 to his own time in 1985 to ask for Marty's help to help his son. In number point 9, there's another jump in time where there are 3 persons aboard the time machine. There's Marty's girlfriend, that I don't remember her name, Marty himself, and Doc Emmett Brown. The jump from number 9 to number 10 in 2015. That's the 5th jump in time. When they arrive number 10, the things they begin to do to help his son alter the timeline again. They create the timeline number 3. And in that line, the old Biff Tannen discovers that Emmett Brown discovered the time machine. So he takes the DeLorean and decides to jump back to the year 1955 to bring the sports almanac to a young version of himself, so he can bet and with the help of the almanac and become rich. Once he delivers the almanac to himself, he creates a 4th timeline, and after the old Biff Tannen has made his work, he decides to come back in number 13 to the number 14 to the year 2015. That's the 7th jump in time. But there is an error here because number 14 should be in timeline number 4. But in the movie we see that point number 14 is in line 3. That's an error. But well, that's how the movie were made. Now In point 15, the heroes, Marty, Doc, and Marty's girlfriend, come back to what they think is their year, but they go from number 15 to number 16. There isn't in their own timeline. They go to number 16 in timeline number 4. There is the one with no Hill Valley, there's Hell Valley, as we see in that picture. Once they get there, Marty begins to interact with Biff and so creates a 5th timeline. So to change what the old Biff did in the past, Doc and Marty decide to come back to the year 1955. So they jump from number 17 to number 18, from timeline number 5 to timeline number 2. That's the 9th jump in time. From number 18, then comes number 3, number 12, we've seen before. And in number 19, Marty takes the almanac from the young Biff and he decides to burn it because it only creates troubles. There appears Doc in the flying DeLorean, but lightning strikes the car. So Doc jumps from number 20 to number 21 in the year 1885 because he had programmed this year in the machine. That's the 10th jump. When Doc arrives number 21, he creates another timeline, the 7th one, because he changed the time. In that 7th line, he's killed. The timeline goes on until it gets to 1925, where there is Marty that has gone to see Doc from year 1955 to ask for his help to get him back to his own time in 1985, but then they discover that Doc was killed in the past, so they change their mind and they decide to take Marty to the past in number 22. So Marty jumps from number 22 to number 23. That's the 11th jump. When Marty arrives number 23, he creates another timeline, number 8. He creates another timeline where Doc is killed by Tannen ancestor. So number 24, they decide to jump back to their time, to their own year, in 1985. There's a trouble with the train on the bridge, so Doc helps Clara and he has to stay in that year in 1885. So the one who jumps from 85 to 85, from the 19th century to 20th century, is only Marty McFly. Jump number 12, he gets to the number 25. Number 26, in the year 1885, there's another jump that we don't see in the screen, but we suppose. Doc jumps to the future, so he converts the train into a flying train. He modernizes it in the future in 2015. Then after number 27, in number 28, he decides to come back to the year 1885. So he arrives to number 29. They probably make more jumps. We don't know where because we don't see them, they don't say about it. But we know they jump from number 30 to number 31 to the year 1985, where they meet Marty and his girlfriend. So Marty asks Doc if he pretends to jump again to the future, but he says he has already been there. So if he says he won't jump to the future, it means he will jump to the past. So we know for number 32, he goes to somewhere in the past. And that's the last jump of the trilogy. We have 16 jumps with 8 timelines. There are some errors, but well, I think it's accurate, this diagram. I would like, if you find any error or anything that could be better, you could tell it to me in the comments. That's all, folks. Thanks for watching.